A large tanker underneath an overpass in Philadelphia caught fire and the overpass has collapsed. It has shut down a major section of I-95. We're going to be talking about that fire. We're going to be talking about how we've had a slew of tanker accidents recently and how they're not really being reported on. It's hard for us to get real numbers. It's hard for us to even track the tanker fires and crashes that have happened where even whole loads of fuel are dumped onto highways because nobody's really watching for that. We're just going to take a quick survey of the tanker accidents that have happened in just the past few weeks to give you a flavor of how serious and how frequent this is happening. This is big news locally maybe, but then it doesn't get shared nationally. These tanker accidents, tankers exploding, people being killed by fuel tankers, this is actually sadly very common inside the United States. When we talk about rail, things are much safer when they're traveling on rail than they are on the road, and a lot of accidents are happening like this one in Philadelphia. Welcome to the Poplar Report. I'm Steve Poplar, and we cover on this channel things that the media doesn't really go into depth. You're not going to hear anywhere else what other tanker accidents have happened in the last few weeks. A deep dive like that is something that we do on this channel to provide you information so that you can kind of make decisions for yourselves. Well, let's look at this accident that just happened today. This large tanker caught fire underneath an overpass. It is a bridge. So you'll see people talking about a bridge, but then also it's not like a bridge that goes over water, it's a bridge that goes over the road. So it did shut down, and it will continue to have major impacts on I-95 going forward. They probably, I'm not exactly sure what the flow rate of that area is traffic-wise, whether they'll be able to divert one half of the traffic over to the other side, like they do with a lot of construction efforts. But they're saying that at the very least, we're looking at weeks, if not months, before the replacement of that overpass does take place. Now, the Federal Transportation Secretary immediately got on the horn and said that whatever the city of Philadelphia needs, they will have, that the Transportation Secretary and the whole department, Federal Department of Transportation, will work with them. Folks in East Palestine, 6 months later, are still waiting to hear that same call. The Transportation Secretary, the Federal Department of Transportation, still not doing really anything with the massive rail wreck, with the chemicals going everywhere into the water, everything like that. Funny, when tragic, traumatic, massive disasters happen in red areas, red rural areas, there is not a peep out of the Transportation Secretary at all. But as soon as there is a wreck that's going to inconvenience people in a blue city, suddenly everybody starts hopping up and down very excitedly about getting everything that's possibly needed to help all these commuters not have to spend another 15-20 minutes in traffic. One of the other things I'm going to point out is that with this wreck, we're seeing that fuel in a relatively confined space underneath a metal and concrete structure. It did collapse. I know there's a lot of people out there with 9/11 and everything like that, like, well, fuel doesn't melt steel. Well, it doesn't need to melt it in order to weaken it enough to the point where it collapses. And that's exactly what happened here as well. Not to say that other buildings didn't collapse suspiciously in that incident, but the main towers themselves, very similar situation, fuel and confined space on steel, causing it to collapse. And that's what happened here in Philadelphia. Take what you will from that. And let us know down in the comments what you think about that. I know you guys have thoughts on those things. There's been recently a whole bunch of folks out there trying to get me to ban certain people who haven't said anything too offensive in the comment section, and I really hate the idea of banning people unless they say something that's either threatening to someone else or extremely insulting. If someone's being a troll and just being extremely insulting towards other people, that's potentially a reason there. But if someone is just playing or making jokes or whatever like that, I find it very difficult to want to start banning people for stuff like that. And here on YouTube, is it even possible to fully ban people anyway? But if you see something that is either a scam in the comment section or is like, I will not ever ask you to contact me directly through WhatsApp. There is one way for you to contact me directly, and that's through my email address at poplarpreparedness@gmail.com. No other way, and I can't even type that in comments. So, anyone else is a scammer, report them. Just hit the little report flag and report them to YouTube. There are a couple moderators on here that will block those people as soon as they see them, as well as I do. But it's just hard to stay on top of all of those guys. So report people doing that. If someone makes threatening comments, report them. All that deal. Okay, so let's jump into what we're seeing recently fuel-wise. Of course, we had that stretch last month where 3 Texas refineries went up within 2 weeks of each other. And in the same period, there were 2 refineries in Mexico that caught fire too. Highly, highly suspicious. 5 refineries in 2 weeks. That's hard not to start drawing connections between those dots, isn't it? We've had several train derailments that have caused fuel leaks. But nothing super, super big. But when it comes to fuel that's being transported by vehicles, by trucks, we had a natural gas truck that exploded in Ferrisburg, Vermont. Now, I'm going to put a few of these out here for you, but I want to point out something. That in all of these news articles, the reason why a news article is written is because there is something else going on with the story. The idea of a national news story being written about just a tanker fire is something that just doesn't happen. So like one of these articles, it's they're looking for somebody. Or another case, they're talking about the impact to traffic. Or they're talking about, like in this case, the natural gas tanker exploded with the driver just barely able to escape. That was just yesterday up in Ferrisburg, Vermont. That's fresh news. There was a tanker accident in which 1 person died in Indianapolis. There was a tanker crash in Baltimore. That was a couple weeks ago. That closed down traffic. Columbia, South Carolina, a couple weeks ago, a tanker. Oregon, a tanker, and I'm talking all these are within the last 3 weeks at the longest. Most of these are within 2 weeks. Atlanta, there was a tanker on June 2nd that dumped its full load of fuel onto the highway. Colorado on May 20th. So none of these are older than like the 20th of May, to kind of give you a ballpark. And these are not. This is not all the tanker accidents. This is just the tanker accidents that I can find news articles on. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 in addition to this one in Philadelphia in the last just a few weeks. That's a statistically significant number, folks. Now, I'm not saying that this is necessarily increased from a previous period, but to say that tanker accidents are happening at a very not infrequent time. So if you drive around and you see these tankers out there, give them as much space as you can, because these things do have accidents. Now, there's a whole heck of a lot of them out there. There's a lot of tanker trucks out there and hauling everything from jet fuel to gasoline to diesel, and I understand there's a lot of them out there, but there's also a lot of accidents happening too. This is not going to damage the fleet of trucks doing this, but I just think that we should get that information out there. You do with that as you will. All right, folks, please do keep your reports coming in on what you guys are seeing where you are, and I do appreciate all your feedback on the daily updates that we're doing. It is feeding a lot of information and provoking a lot of information, getting me to do research more on different topics and such that need to be researched. And so thank you for pointing all those things out. You can do an update by just using the word update and any comment on a video, and that will trigger letting me see that as well. You can also email me at poplarpreparedness@gmail.com. You can find that down in the description or on the About page. If you want to check out another video from this channel, you can find one right here. I'll see you over there, or I'll see you guys later. Steve Poplar of the Poplar Report, out.